How many people are drunk already? Nobody? No.
Maybe, how many people are drunk still?
Still. How many people went to the Rocky Horror screening last night? And how many of you were virgins? Oh,
wow.
Poor guy. Really. And nobody told you not to admit that? No? Oh no, you never admit you're a virgin when you go see a Rocky Horror screening. Usually, you got off easy last night, by the way.
So I hear.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
You just stood in a line and had to, the next guy. Usually they make you do really disgusting things. In fact, let's you and I do really disgusting things right now to make up for last night, all right? Who's the youngest person in the room? Give me some ages.
I'm 16.
How old?
16.
16?
Wait, 8?
8?
Too young.
Oh boy.
There's an 8-year-old in here?
I think
Shit.
Pokemon.
Now I can't swear. All right, and I have to watch my language. Okay. Damn. Okay. Huh. Do you have any questions for me? 'Cause I'm dead. Yes.
Okay, you said that you've seen really weird things that virgins had to do. What's like the weirdest thing that you've ever seen that virgins had to do?
Take their clothes off in front of strangers. You know, something I do every weekend. What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen?
Well, I mean, when I did it, and I was 15, so I didn't have to go up and actually do it, but I know they had to put one hand over their heart, one hand over their crotch, and then say a pledge.
Oh.
That's pretty tame.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's nothing.
That's reasonably tame.
That's
Yeah, but then they picked a few people out, and like they had to give like lap dances to the cast members and stuff, so.
Lap dances to the cast members.
Yeah, as like different animals.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so weird.
I don't.
Well, okay, here, I'm just... It's too early for that. Oh, good. No, I know usually it's boys kissing boys and girls kissing girls and all those things that you want to see at midnight. So, has anybody else had a virgin experience that they'd like to share? No? How about when you lost your real virginity? Did you ever share that with me?
Well,
Yes.
no, but for the showing, they had the virgins moan in different animal noises, and then they had an activity where you had a random stranger,
Right.
about like 5 or 6 of them on stage, with a banana between their crotch, and another stranger girl would have to come and put a condom on that banana with her mouth.
This is just disgusting. And I think this is the problem with the Rocky Horror Picture Show is that I'm on this kick to clean it up a bit, you know? I really am. I just think it's gotten too weird and too sexually devious, you know? And because of that, I don't think people want to bring their kids to it anymore. And it's no longer the coming of age event that it was 10, 15 years ago, you know? I wouldn't, if I had a young child, 13, 14, 15, I wouldn't bring him to the theater. I'd show them the movie at home because I think it's a really good movie, and I think seeing the movie is just as evocative and brings up questions, and I think it's just as effective. But I think when you're in the theater, you're bombarded with all of this profanity and people acting out just because they want to act out, as opposed to interacting with the film, you know. Do other people agree with me on that?
Yes.
Yeah? Good. Well, then you're going to be part of my posse. Okay? And you're going to pass this on and say, you know, and if you go see it in a theater, you know, you tell the organizers of it to calm it down a bit, you know. That's what I would do. But maybe this one that's coming up with on Fox, maybe that will clean it up a little bit, and people will, you know, not want to act out quite so much. Yeah. All right. You're on my team. Okay, good. Yeah. And I know Patricia feels the same way, and certainly Nell does. She's really offended by it all, you know, and I'm getting more. I have a 19-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old son, and I finally took my daughter to a screening of it. It was an outdoor screening in Los Angeles, and it was, you know, open to the public, and it was, you know, 1,000 people or something on a summer screening, and even out there, I was embarrassed to have my daughter, you know, sit there. She brought a friend or two from school, and I didn't want to have to answer to the friend's parents at the end of the evening when the friend went home.
But yeah, about that.
You know, and said, you know, what she had witnessed, you know. But, so, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
It has definitely. I've been a huge fan for probably since I was 13 years old, and I did the shadow casts, and I've seen 20 years ago as in a shadow cast. I see how much it's changed, and how, as you said, it has gotten more and more to how can we shock the heck out of everybody.
Yeah.
And oh wait, there's a movie playing, right? So
Yeah.
it's a lot of people still hold true. The fan base is still there. It's still in the heart. It just needs to be brought back to what it is, which is a
Yeah.
wonderful movie, a wonderful piece of work that you
Yeah.
all put your heart and soul into for.
Well, you know what a shadow cast was originally? It was the real
The shadow.
shadows. You know, they would do it in front of the film, and just their shadows would be projected on the screen.
That's how we had it.
That's how you had it?
That's how we had it.
Yeah, and now it just becomes, they have their own cameras, they have their own screens, they have their own this and that, you know, and it was always about the mimicking, it was brilliant, and some of them still are brilliant, you know,
Very good.
if they keep their clothes on. And I got no problem. Come on in. How are you? Come on, sit down. You're a virgin. No, you're not a virgin. No. We're just talking about our virgin stories. No. Were you ever a virgin at Rocky Horror? No. Okay. Have you ever seen Rocky Horror?
When I was.
When you were very young. Yeah. Okay. You're still very young. I'm basically this whole interview is gonna be about you. I'm gonna embarrass you for the next half hour. Welcome. Okay. So we were saying, so are you still doing a shadow cast?
No, I haven't done it in years.
No?
I haven't in years due to just circumstances that, you know, came up, grew up, for lack of a better term, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and I was unable to keep doing it, but it still holds a place in my heart.
But you made a lot of friends.
Absolutely. The organizer of this convention is actually one of my friends that we used to do that shadow cast together, and 20 years later, we're still very, very close. So
Oh, that's great.
It's a wonderful thing. You
Yeah.
make lifelong friends, and
Yeah.
it's just a really great experience to
Yeah.
do. But not about me. So does anyone else have any questions for Barry specifically?
Yes.
It's probably a question you're asked often, I'm sorry, I just have never heard the answer, but did anybody anticipate when you were filming, at the beginning of the journey, how cultish it would become, how much of a pop culture?
Well, there weren't really, these things didn't exist then. I mean, this whole cult thing, this whole midnight movie thing, you know, there was a few of them out there, and obviously Warhol has some things out that would play at oddball times, but no, who knew that the community in New York, the homosexual community in New York and in the West Village, would really take to this movie so quickly and become attached to it and talk to it and have this party every Friday or Saturday night, and then it just grew and grew and grew from there. Sal Piro, who was the guy who sort of started it in New York, finally, I think, retired this year after 40
Finally?
years. Finally?
Wow.
Yeah. He was the head of the fan club, and he was the first guy who sort of stood up on stage and organized it in some way, and his friends would dress up and come, and then more of them would dress up, and more of them would dress up, and create havoc in the streets of New York because they hadn't seen this kind of behavior at midnight standing out in front of a theater, you know. And so, you know, he's passing it on. And we had a 40th anniversary in New York this last year, and there was still, they sold out, and then we had a screening at the Ziegfeld Theater. Thousands of people showed up, so come on in.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Are you a virgin? Oh, yeah. Come on in.
No one told they're virgin.
No, I think he's a virgin. You're holding the hat. Yeah. Yeah. Come on, sit down. We're having fun here. Well, I'm having fun. There's a hand in the back.
It's me. I want to know what you swiped, if anything. Any props or anything, any outfits?
Did I take anything?
Hell yeah.
No, they wouldn't we couldn't take anything. And obviously, we didn't know that it was going to be worth anything, you know. I would have, what would I have taken?
Yeah.
My high heels, because size 12 have been a bitch to find.
Actually, based on the same question, I have something similar. What is the, if anything, the most interesting or weirdest prop you've ever taken from a set? Any of. Now, you have a huge body of work. So any.
Weird things?
Maybe anything. Well, what's your favorite thing? Let's put it that way.
God.
That you would have taken
I did
from
a thing called Movie years ago with George C. Scott. If you guys haven't seen it, now this is a movie we're seeing. Movie, George C. Scott, Red Buttons, myself, and do you know what I'm talking about, this movie?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Yeah, have you seen it?
A long time ago.
You can get it on DVD now, and it's really a brilliant movie. It's a send up of 30s, 40s films, and the same cast is in both a musical that's a takeoff on 42nd Street and a black and white boxing movie, and we all play different characters in the two things, and plus we do previews for coming attractions in the middle. Stanley Donen directed it, who's a classic musical director of the 40s, 50s. I stole some props from that. There was these plaster angels that were hanging in one set, I forget. And I've had to carry that thing around for 35 years, and every time I move, I go make sure that plaster doesn't, get broken.
Very cool.
It's sort of like when your wife gets a pregnancy, thing, and you don't dare break it, It's always packed up, and then it goes from one storage area to another storage area and to another storage area. It's the same thing with that prop. I got a little house from Hannah Montana, the movie, which I did with Miley. Yeah, I played a real estate agent, a crooked real estate agent in that, and I was trying to steal her land and build these little condos and things on her land. I wasn't effective. I play a lot of characters that aren't effective. That's what they do. From mayors, lawyers who always lose every case, But I wish I occasionally see people who have boas from the Rocky Horror Show. I'll see something, well, that's an original boa. How do you know? I mean, it just looks like a boa to me, But no, they were very strict that we didn't take anything when we left. Not that I don't even think they knew that this stuff would be worth anything. But whoever's got it now, they're holding it. They should have sold it on eBay 5 years ago.
They may have.
I would have. Yes.
Going off of what you said about playing mayor, I actually saw you for the first time in Spin City when they were doing reruns, and I loved the show. So I just wanted to ask how it was to work with Michael J. Fox and all of them in that show. And did you steal anything from that?
This is the larceny panel.
From that. Yeah. There was a lot of stuff that I stole from that. But the one of them was just a great relationship with Mike, and then consequently with Charlie Sheen. Mike's one of the smartest, wisest comedy sort of mavens. I mean, he really understands the genre, and it was, I learned a lot from him. I was of another generation, so it was tough. Come on in, sit down. No, get out of here. Jesus Christ. Is nobody watching the door? He was also the executive producer, so he had in his mind every week the whole. He had to make sure that the story worked from beginning, middle, and end. And so he had a different point of view than us. But when Charlie came on, he was just part of the ensemble, and we would get scripts every 2 days, and we would try our best to make it funny or get it on its feet for the writers and the producers. But Mike was one of those guys that was always thinking of structure and the whole of it. And then by Friday night, when we shot it in front of an audience, that's when he would really come alive. He didn't do a lot of rehearsing up to that point. He had a perfect memory. He had one of those photographic memories. So you could hand him 2 pages of dialogue 5 minutes before we shot, and all he had to do was just read it, and then he could just say it, and I hated him for that because it's so difficult, sometimes, and given the stresses of that part of the business. But he was so comfortable with it, and we were all, devastated when he had to leave the show. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes.
Sorry if my question is very poorly worded, but you play characters you were Danny Zuko.
Yeah, Danny Zuko,
And
yeah.
Brad Majors, and you did find musicals, but then you did film not musical things. What do you rather? What do you like better?
Oh, I'd rather do musicals. I like it when it really uses up, more things that I was trained to do and I love doing. We have a musical coming out called The Devil's Carnival, Alleluia. That'll be out in March. That is really good, and it's sort of a throwback pastiche of musicals. That it's the second in a series of The Devil's Carnival. Darren Bousman directed it, who did Repo, the Genetic Opera.
Yes.
Yeah. There we go. Hey.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he did. I did another movie for him last year called Tales of Halloween, and which was out on Halloween. Sort of. Yeah, and I love this guy. He's very, very smart, and he's really good at what he does, and he's going to have some big films in his canon very soon. But it's a musical, and I get to sing a good song in that, and I'll jump in anything where I can sing. Got a web series on now called Inside the Extras Studio, where I interview supposedly very famous extras. I'm running a school for extras, and it's actually very funny. Our 10th episode came on this week. You can see it on YouTube. Subscribe. Hello, come on in. You could just, hi, come on in. Don't think everybody's looking at you right now. There you go. Hey, that's it, yeah. And we're going to do another season of that starting in February. Inside the Extra Studio, a thing called Mildly Fearsome Films is the producer on that. And then I did another web series called Rasputin, based on the sort of modern day telling of the Rasputin story. And I didn't sing in that. I played Rasputin. I was just killed unmercifully over and over again. It's very funny, actually. And I just finished a couple of days ago a show in Nashville called, I know you didn't ask me what my whole history was, but I'm just going to tell you while I remember it. A thing called Still the King with Billy Ray Cyrus, who's obviously Miley's father. We did 10 episodes of that. That'll start on the CW in June. And I play a very weird swinger kind of guy. And I'm always trying to seduce Billy Ray Cyrus into group sex. And, apparently my career hasn't gone very far.
Well, I looked up a very fun fact, speaking of singing and music and such. The Clowns
Yes,
was a group that you were in 1970, I want to say?
yes.
Put together by Ringling Brothers.
Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus, yeah.
And do you remember Lady Love?
Lady Love, will you be mine? It went to 37 on the chart. That was the only.
It broke through the top 40.
Yeah. Broke through the top 100. This was a group that was put together by Barnum and Bailey to sell records. They wanted to sort of make a Monkees kind of thing, you know, and they did a pilot for a series where there's a group of 4 of us, I think, called the Clowns with a K, and we were hip clowns, very hip clowns. And we were going to be the hosts of this 1-hour weekly show where they put together celebrities and circus acts, and they sort of intertwined in some way. And it was really a good concept. The pilot was with Sammy Davis Jr. And us, and it was never picked up, unfortunately. We had 1 album. I was the lead singer, and Lady Love was our big hit. And if you find it somewhere in a record store,
Grab it.
grab it. Yeah, grab it, because I'll buy it from you. Yeah, maybe I should sell copies of Lady Love at my table downstairs. Right? You're the only one who would ever know.
Am I
about
the only one that's ever mentioned that to you at all the conventions you've ever been?
it. Yeah.
I get points for this, right? Come on.
Yeah. What was the guy's name who produced it? He did the Archies. He was into doing those sort of bubblegum groups. Yeah. Yes.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure every role you've played, you got the part of yourself in that role.
The part of me.
What role has snuck up on you when you look in the mirror and you go, I see you? What character has followed you? Do you understand what I'm
Interesting.
asking?
So most of them. I mean, there's always, as you say, there's always part of you. I mean, they all sort of alike because I have the same hair. You know, it's like I'm a hair actor. I like to change the style of my hair for these characters, you know, and there's certain looks that I have that I like and certain looks I don't like. When it goes real short, like a doctor or somebody, I hate what I look like. My head's too pointed and my eyes are too close set. You know, I like the weird characters because I think underneath it all I'm sort of a weird guy, and they don't have to be swingers or they don't have to be, you know. Well, it was Scandal. I raped the president's wife, and that was pretty close to me, I would think. And, you know, I think I'm capable of doing that. I like anything in which you really get to explore your dark side, because most actors, they always just want to be liked. You know, like me, hire me. You know, buy my underwear. You know. And, so you can come down and buy my underwear, by the way. I've got about 5 or 6 pairs left, and it's Sunday, and I don't want to have to take them home. I'll just have to wash them, and I don't want to have to do that. Yeah, so that's all. Yeah, I like the dark side, you know.
What was it? Oh gosh. I'm sorry, I am horrible. I took this from you to actually, I saw you do this yesterday, little notes.
Oh, last night?
Yep.
Yeah, you know, everybody's drunk.
Yeah,
you
that's,
know,
yeah.
You know.
I'm just tired, so.
Yeah, no, it's,
FDR, American Badass.
Great movie.
You were FDR.
I was FDR, historically inaccurate.
Completely.
Yeah.
How was it, how do I put this delicately?
There are children here.
There's an 8-year-old. How was it getting stoned with Abraham Lincoln, which was Kevin Sorbo? What was that like?
Did you think
How
that we
was
really
that?
got stoned? I mean,
No, but I mean, of course acting, but I mean that
think it was
that
acting.
scene. How was that whole experience of being FDR American Badass?
FDR, done by Ross Patterson, who's a very weird, strange filmmaker, who's perhaps brilliant, and always goes very over the top with his writing, and I'm attracted to that. I like doing that kind of stuff, and FDR, he loses his legs, the use of his legs, because he gets bit by a werewolf, right? So.
I think I read about that in my history book.
Yeah, it's true, and so he spends the rest of the movie fighting these werewolves from around the world, and there's a Hitler werewolf and this and that. It's a very funny movie. You don't want to play it in front of your children, but we did a sort of a sequel to it that just came out called Helen Keller versus Night Wolves. Come on in, sit down. Yeah. And Helen Keller versus Night Wolves was just released to all of the sort of streaming services for free, because FDR was downloaded illegally 3 or 4 million times by every stoner kid in college around the world. So the guy realizes that he's not going to make any money off of his movies, so he makes them for no money, and then sells the foreign rights and gets what little money he put into it back. So now he's just giving his films away, trying to establish a brand, And the next one we're going to try to get done is Gandhi versus Zombies. And I am, of course, going to play Gandhi. And I'll be the tallest Gandhi.
The best hair.
The hair, that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a big problem, because I'll probably have to wear a skull cap or something. I'll be damned if I'm going to shave my head for a Ross Patterson movie. He actually, for Helen Keller, his wife plays the lead in it. She plays Helen Keller, and she's a hairdresser on the side. And I said, I think I want to go dark with my hair for this, because it's as if he has this rep company of actors who does all his films, and so his films are supposedly the worst films ever made, and he does that on purpose. It makes it look bad. There's crew people walking in the background, and that kind of stuff. And voiceovers are, if it's a man with a voiceover,
Poorly dubbed.
It's a poorly dubbed, or a voice, or a woman's voice. You have to catch all of them. Or he does these quick cutaways to his dad, dressed up as a geisha girl. You gotta see him. I mean, I can't explain him anymore. You gotta. It's very funny. They're very funny, but they're rude. Yes.
In Rocky Horror, what was it like having to perform most of the movie in underwear and a corset?
Oh. Well, I'm still in it at the moment. I've never stopped. Well, luckily, I was skinny enough that I wasn't self-conscious about it, and I found the high heels very challenging, but it was great because the character had never been in high heels before, so I didn't have to, pretend like I was great at it. I did a short film about a year and a half ago called Dragula. And I played a drag queen, an old sort of washed up drag queen you can get this on YouTube also. Dragula. I played Dragula. And I had to wear high heels. It took us a long time to find high heels on Hollywood Boulevard, you know, at the hooker stores, to find something that fit me. And then if you see Dragula, you'll see that I don't do too well in my high heels, so I just sort of pretend like I'm slightly drunk. But I do a musical number in that, and I'm in full drag. I mean, I bang out full drag. It was produced by, hi, come on in. Yeah. Hi, what are you selling?
Not selling, gaming. I'm at right after you. So.
Oh, you're right after me. Oh, cool.
Yes, I am.
Am I done yet?
Nope, you have time.
I got how much time?
You're supposed to be here till 2.
Till 2.
I have you till 2.
I'm here till 2. Okay. You want to
your
just stand there for a half hour? Oh, you can sit
I'll
down.
sit, yeah.
Yeah, Dragula. So find that Dragula. You'll see it on, I'm sure, on YouTube. Short film. And I had an interesting musical number in that too. Going back to your musical question, I'll do anything if I can sing a song. Yes.
What's your favorite musical?
My favorite musical.
Like just of all time. And then also, what's the part that you've always wanted to play but you never got to?
My favorite musical. Gosh. You know, I like a musical that's hardly ever done anymore. 110 in the Shade. Schmidt and Jones did it. They did the Fantastics. They wrote the Fantastics. And I was talking to somebody last night about this. 110 in the Shade. It was based on The Rainmaker, the play The Rainmaker, and the lead character is named Starbuck, and he's a rainmaker, and he goes to this small town and convinces them that he can make it rain if they pay him a certain amount of money, and it's all about him getting involved with the people in the town. And it's really a charming musical. I've never done it. I think I've aged myself out of Starbuck, but I can, you know, if you ever get a chance to see 110 in the Shade, go see that. And I've always wanted to play Frankenfurter. You know, I think every actor would love to play that character. Because he's just a really mean guy underneath it all. You know, I mean, he's just really, he's a sick MF. You know?
Go to the 8-year-old, I think, left.
And he's, and what Tim was able to do was bring a masculinity to it, I think, underneath it all, that you caught the danger in the character. A lot of people play him and they just are a little too, you know,
Prancy?
What?
Prancy, maybe?
Prissy, swishy, you know,
Voice.
that kind of thing. And they get off on just being the feminine sort of cross-dressing side of the character. But the guy underneath it all is a really bad guy, you know. And that's why he's killed at the end, damn it.
Spoilers.
As he should be. You know. All right, I just answered your question. 110 in the Shade, Frankenfurter. Okay. That's all right, come on in if you want. You don't have to. There's people here.
Really?
We're having fun. Yeah, look at that. Come in.
She's like, oh, I know you.
Are you here for the gaming?
I don't know, I just walked in.
You just walked in. Sit down. Damn it, sit down.
I just walked in on Barry Bostwick.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, now I'm going to start this whole thing again because they just walked in. You don't mind that, do you? Hi, I'm Barry Bostwick. And, no. All right. Does anybody have a question that I've never heard?
Well,
Yeah.
earlier, I was just going to piggyback off of that because since you brought that up, I was going to ask you, what do you think of Laverne Cox going to play?
I just think that's weird.
Yeah.
I think it's weird, you know, that I don't know. Apparently, she did a great audition, according to the people who were involved in it. I don't. What is she going to be having sex with Brad with?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, it's more like, because that's what I thought, like when I first saw it, I thought maybe it's more of a publicity type to get the viewers in.
Oh, yeah, I'm
That's what
sure.
I thought. Yeah, but that's the first I'm hearing that the audition went really well, so I mean,
Oh, yeah, no.
she's a great actress, so.
She's a great
Okay,
actress,
yeah.
yeah, and she's, but you know, I think it's a bit of stunt casting to get
Yeah.
people to watch it, you know, and they balanced that with, you know, Nickelodeon and Disney stars and
Tim.
and
Tim now.
You're being by Disney.
Yeah, they have 10 now.
you know, and so I think it should be really interesting to see if they can pull it off.
Yeah.
You know. I'm looking forward to the Grease one at the end of this month.
Yeah.
The live Grease
Julianne
one.
Hough.
Because that's being directed by a real interesting guy who did Hamilton on Broadway, and so I know he's going to bring something fresh to it, and Grease needs something fresh. I mean, it's talk about an old chestnut.
As I said before, you actually originated the part of Danny Zuko.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
received a Tony for it?
Well, I got nominated for.
Oh, nominated for the
Yeah,
Tony for it.
yeah. No, none of us got Tonys for that because we are producers of Grease. For the year that we opened, we were sort of off Broadway, but we were in a Broadway theater that sat a number of, you know, like a couple thousand people or whatever. And the Broadway community didn't like us too much, and so they weren't going to accept us as being a Broadway show. And so our producers were going to sue the Tony Committee if they don't, you know. So we got 5 nominations and didn't win any of them because we basically pissed off the Tony people. But we were recognized, and we moved then up onto Broadway. But once we moved to a Broadway theater, you know, it was past tense. We couldn't be nominated or anything again. But no, I got a Tony for a musical called The Robber Bridegroom in 1977. If you, that's a really charming show. If you haven't seen it, I think they're going to try to bring it back to Broadway this year. The Robber Bridegroom. Go buy the album. I recorded the album. I produced the album, and so I'll probably get about 12 cents if you buy the album. But The Robber Bridegroom, really, it's one of those shows that's done in community theaters and colleges and high schools because it's really good. It's really good. Yeah.
And one more question, and then one, I promise.
You can ask.
Give you regrets. Is
What's
there
that?
anything looking back on your professional career,
Right.
do you have any regrets?
Regret?
Would you have changed anything?
Oh God, I have no regrets at all. No, really, I don't have any regrets. I mean, I get something out of everything I do. Geez, if I had to live with regrets, I wouldn't be married anymore. Yeah, my wife asked me this. Don't you regret not doing this or not doing that? And I go, no. Apparently my meditation from the last 30 years is working, and my yoga classes are working, and I'm breathing properly most of the time. And so I'm trying to live in the present as much as I can. So the more you live in the present, you know, don't focus on the past or the future, there's nothing to regret, you know?
Excellent answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can still ask another question. You don't have to nix yourself from this
I believe that
conversation.
Frankie over here had a question.
Yes.
In Rocky Horror, in that scene where Janet and Brad get split up into separate rooms and like Frank comes in and Janet puts them in. How is that?
You're way too young to even know what that. Didn't you have any questions about that? Oh, this is the question. You want me to explain that to you? Oh, God. Where are your parents at a moment like this?
I was.
Come on, speak up. I'm sorry. You want to know?
I was like, how was that weird? Like, how was that? Like,
Weird? Was it weird?
Was it weird?
No.
'Cause, like,
He was very gentle. He was very gentle, and he was very nice, and we were friends by that point. I mean, as you know, person mano to mano. So we, you know, there wasn't anything. We were just acting, you know, and I thought it was the real thing. That's a line from the movie. I thought it was the real thing. But it wasn't the real thing, if you want to know the truth. Yeah.
Was he actually on top of you, or was there like a silhouette fake out where like he was like behind you?
He was actually on top of me.
I always wanted to know, thank you.
Did you want to know that forever? Yeah. He was on top of me, and I suppose he was on top of Susan too. You know, I wasn't around when he did it with Susan. I was around when she did touch me though. I sat up in the flies and watched that whole thing because I was fascinated by her breasts. All right, that's 13-year-olds. How old?
I'm 17.
You're 17? Oh, well, great. Talk to me when you're 18. God, 17. But you're so young. Oh, all right. We'll talk later. Any other questions? Yes?
On a serious note, is there any advice you could give people who are looking to make it in the industry?
To make it in the industry,
well,
yeah.
more musical theater than film.
I wouldn't want anybody to go into this business these days. It's so difficult. You know, they keep on saying, I subscribe to a thing called Backstage. If you want to go into show business, you can get it online. You get it every day. They give you these little snippets and interviews and advice, and it's called Backstage. And I just and they sort of, coaches and teachers will do articles and interviews and this and that, and they'll teach you a lot about the reality of the business today. And so much of it is social media, you know, and getting up and having your Twitter accounts and your this accounts and your Facebooks and Instagrams and all of that, and things that I don't really do. I have a Facebook account, but somebody else sort of has to put stuff on it for me. But as a young actor, it's amazing how they are looking at that, they are meaning producers and directors, and seeing how many followers you have, and they'll cast you based on if you have more followers than the other person who's maybe up for the same part. I think it's sort of a bogus way to do show business, but you know, not necessarily the best person gets the part these days, but the one who has the most followers does. And so I suggest to you to take as many naked pictures of yourself and put them on Instagram and try to break the internet, you know, and then you'll work forever. That's all I can say. And just train, and act. You know, just don't turn anything down. I haven't turned a lot down, and I learn something every time I do something, whether it's a web series or I just did 5 episodes of a web series which will be a pilot called Skirt Chasers that we just finished, and it's about a father and a daughter. The daughter is just she's just been rejected at it. She's a lesbian. She just got rejected at her wedding by her partner, and he, the character I played, his wife leaves him, and they end up rooming together, and so that's why it's called Skirt Chasers, because apparently they're both going to chase the same skirt. But it's an interesting concept, and it's a good. But you know, it didn't pay anything. Maybe I got $100 of them before. You know, good and bad. Our Screen Actors Guild, you know, has this ultra low budget way of making these movies, so that the filmmakers can make these movies really on the cheap from an acting standpoint. All they have to do is pay the actors $100 a day, and they still get all their benefits and everything. But the actors. But in a way, everybody's now just trying to do these low budget, ultra low budget movies, and so actors can't make a living. You know, you just can't. It's hard to make a living. So get another job. You know, to support that, and yeah, that's what it's going to take. And then once you do become an actor for a period of time, get a really good hobby. You know, something that engages you on a very creative basis, and make something that you can sell on Etsy. That's all I can do. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Every time you rewatch the Rocky Horror Picture Show, what would you say is your favorite part to like see and relive and like?
Oh, my favorite part. I like the floor show. You know, I like the floor show a lot. I like it. I like the song. You know, and then I like Tim's "I'm Going Home" at the end. I think he really sings the hell out of that, and it's a wonderful flip moment for his character. And I mean, I probably should say "Damn it, Janet," you know, just because I'm in it. But you know, I like it. I like more towards the end. I like the sort of confusion of my character, you know, when he's. And I like it when Susan sort of comes out of the closet and becomes this sort of, you know, this wildcat. Yeah. What's your favorite one?
I like the floor show too. And
The floor show?
And when they first introduced Frankenfurter.
Oh, when sure, when Frankenfurter comes out of that elevator. Wow. Boy, that's amazing, isn't it? And you should have seen it on stage when he finally, boy, when Tim did that on stage and comes at some of the theaters that he did, you know, he'd come from the back of the house and just like open up, and people had never seen anything like that before. That kind of energy, that kind of bravado, you know, self-confidence, and just the look that he had was, you know, glitter Rocky kind of David Bowie-esque, you know, all that. Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Anybody? Yes.
So Rocky Horror Picture Show is a huge cult following in the U.S. and I'm assuming in the U.K. too, because that's where the play came from. What other countries do you guys do conventions in, or do you find like huge cult followings in?
All over the world. I mean, I don't do them all over the world. I just do a few of them here. But yeah, I mean, this movie's playing somewhere right now. You know, and it's the longest running film, continuously running film ever. And they are fan bases and shadow casts in every country. And we saw it when we did the 40th anniversary in New York. We had really interesting people, particularly the Japanese. They love this movie. They just love it. And but I know that there's huge followings in Germany and in Italy, and but I'd like to get over and meet some of those people. If they're as interesting as they are here, you know, the sort of core group, you know, which I love these people. I love all of them. I've never had a negative experience with anybody, you know, from the Rocky Horror community. Yeah.
Have any of you guys ever at one point gotten really tired of Rocky?
Getting tired of it? No, not really. I mean, it's such a one-off, you know, for us. I mean, we keep busy doing other things, and then occasionally we dip back into the Rocky thing, like these conventions. And it's always a joy to be with the two girls, because they're such characters, you know. Have you been by our tables? You can see why I like spending time with them. Or if you were at the screening last night, we have an Australian, a Brit, a Lady Stevens, and me, you know, a guy from Malibu. You know, it's like it's such a
diverse.
Yeah, we are diverse. We are very diverse, and it's always a joy to be with them. I didn't know them very well when we shot this thing, because Susan and I and Meatloaf came in very quickly, and we had to learn the parts and do the pre-record, and then we had to, we were living in London, they had us at a hotel in London, and we were shooting at the Bray Studios, which was over an hour away, so we were picked up very early in a car, went to the studios, and, you know, worked till dark, and then went home in dark, and woke up in the dark. So we didn't really socialize much with people. It was a very hard, low-budget movie to make, and quick. And it's always a joy to be with these women and learn just how many drugs were actually being taken that I was totally unaware of. Apparently, they didn't share them with me, and they didn't offer, and I didn't even know what was going on. You know.
Do I go back to the channel?
Yeah.
Now, Tim and Nell and Richard and Pat, they were all in the stage show. Was there any kind of an intimidation factor to be coming into the movie with these people that have been portraying these roles for already a couple of years?
No, I don't think so. I think they were, well, they certainly knew their parts, and they knew, they knew what they wanted to get, and Jim Sharman, the director, was brilliant, and he knew it. He had done the stage version, and we knew our characters, Susan and I, because we were, young Americans who were out of our element, even just going there, and I think we both understood the tone of the piece, which was, not tongue-in-cheek, but slightly larger than life, and we trusted Jim Sharman to get us all on the same page in terms of our acting styles, and that's, I think, one of the things that makes the movie so brilliant is that everybody seems to be in the same movie. We all understand the references to it. We understand the B-movie aspect of it, but none of us, I don't think, are commenting on it. We're not doing that old tongue planted firmly in the cheek, going, "Oh, aren't I funny? Look, I'm doing this sort of send-up of a '50s character," which is the problem, I think, with these kinds of shows, with Grease, with Rocky Horror, is that as the years go on, the cast members become more and more, again, tongue-in-cheek, and commenting on it. And I'm hoping that the Grease thing they'll get back to the heart of the characters and just allow the realities, even though it's heightened, take over, and they won't just be doing a lot of gum smacking and going, hey, dude, all that kind of stuff, So
not just being a stereotype.
Yeah, that would be the word, stereotypical behavior, yeah. So, and then I find the same thing when these subsequent Brads and Janets, Brads in particular, they always want to do the sort of Brad thing, and Brad's just this goofy guy who really thinks he's right about everything, excuse me, 1 second here. This is my wife. No, somebody who wants money. David, no. Okay. Let's see. Yes.
For the new remake, is it going to be weird for you to see someone else play your part?
No, never. I don't. I think everybody should get a shot at their interpretation of it, but just so long as he doesn't overdo it, and I'm hoping that the directors will allow them to just be the part as opposed to commenting on the part. We'll see, we'll see. Yeah.
I have a question. I think you can see me back here. I remember reading something years ago about you being concerned after doing Rocky Horror because it was so non-mainstream that it might actually not be healthy or it might derail your career.
My career?
Did you feel that way at the time, or did you have those concerns?
I don't know, because I don't think anybody way back then really paid much attention to it in our business, and look, if it had affected my career, they wouldn't have cast me as George Washington 5 years later, where I played the first president of the United States in a 10-hour miniseries on CBS. Now, either they they trusted that I could handle the Washington part, or they didn't know anything about Rocky Horror, and that I was walking around with high heels and a bustier, for an hour and a half. No, it's such a unique experience, Rocky Horror, in terms of our careers. I find now that the young directors out there who were affected by it and loved the movie, I'll work for them. I'll work with them because they'll come to me and say, well, their style, Darren Bousman being one of them. We talked earlier about The Devil's Carnival. I mean, he was totally influenced by Rocky Horror, and so when he had his first child, like maybe 6 months ago, I mean, the first picture was he had the child in a Rocky Horror T-shirt, and he was, sending that, Facebooking that all over the world, and so no, I think right now there's a whole generation of filmmakers who were affected by Rocky Horror and that whole experience, and I love working with them because they're creative and they like me. They really like me. Yeah. In the back.
Yeah. Barry, going on the line when someone asked you about how you feel about other people playing the role of Brad, what is your opinion on the supposed Rocky Horror sequel, Shock Treatment?
They just did a stage version of it in London 3 or 4 months ago, and it was a very big hit. And they were trying to move it to the West End, but it was stopped for some reason. I think it was political, and maybe Richard O'Brien, he was doing a stage version of Rocky Horror at the time. He probably didn't want the competition. I don't know. There's this weird ownership issue with Rocky Horror, and Lou Adler, who was the producer, and Richard O'Brien, who was the writer-creator. They bought him out of it way early on, out of the film rights, and he didn't make a lot of money off of the film. So Richard is loath to promote the film in any way, shape, or form. He holds on to the rights for the stage version, so he goes all over the world and stages version, does the Rocky Horror show, but he doesn't really have anything to do with the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and stays out of that whole thing. They called me a few months ago and said, well, if it transfers over, would I be in the stage production? And I said, well, yeah, if you do it, give me a call and we look at it and see. And according to in the movie version, they never came to me because Susan, I think they went to Susan to play Janet, and she wanted too much money, and so they passed on her, and by passing on her, they passed on me because they wanted to cast both characters fresh. But I found the movie, I love the music in the movie, and I find the movie, I don't know what the hell it's about. I mean, apparently when they did it on stage, they cleaned up a lot of that. They made it more simplistic, like you understood the references to reality television and how ahead of it, of the times it was. I mean, Richard O'Brien is a brilliant guy, he really has vision and a sense of what's different and real, and he's a very bright genius of a guy, and weird and strange and a wonderful man sometimes when he wants to be a man, and other times he just wears dresses. God bless him. If you get away with it, and you're unself-conscious about it. I think it's well worth doing a restaging of it. I just hope Richard has another show in him. I mean, he's written a lot of other things that have never gotten anywhere, but it was the same thing with Grease. Those guys wrote a lot of shows, and they never got another show up. Grease was the one show they did, and then one of them passed away, and then they've been trying to get another show. I mean, I think they're brilliant too, but it's sad that some of these really iconic shows, the writers only are given the chance for one you know.
We have time for one last question.
One last
So,
question.
Let's see.
Anybody who hasn't asked a question yet?
Really wants to.
Really wants to? Oh, yes.
How did you get the supernatural thing?
How did I get the Supernatural? They just asked me to do it. It's Supernatural is a wonderful show, isn't it? I do one episode of a show that's been on for 10 years, and at my little table down there, half the people come up and look at that picture of me as the magician and go, "Oh, I love that episode." I get to sort of stood out from the others. But if you're a fan of Supernatural, I mean, you know every show and you know lines, and you are like super fans, like Rocky Horror fans, and this and that. But no, I love those guys. They just asked me to do it. I went up to Vancouver. We did it in 3 or 4 days, and now I have a picture on my table, and people seem to be responding to it. So I have about 6 pairs of underwear left that I will be selling for the next 2 hours, and they're reasonably priced, I must say. For a pair of underwear that cost me $2 at Target, come down, see me, say hello, and thank you for showing up and coming in and talking to me. And I've enjoyed this. I usually don't enjoy these things.